Welcome to sin number 5. I want to talk about hating sin, learning to hate your sin. St. Ignatius taught his disciples a system called spiritual exercises. Some of the material I'm going to share with you today is gleaned from there. Today, I want us to learn to hate our sin. Hating sin is an intentional process that I want to help you with. This can be a difficult and a trying experience, but I promise you it will be very beneficial for your advancement in your spiritual journey. And that is this: learning to see your life as a sinner. Now, to do this, I encourage people to take a long, difficult look at your life as a sinner. It's actually best if you actually write this down and create a list of every known sin you've ever committed, intentionally or unintentionally. And then think of the things you have present struggles with, things that you're struggling with, sins that you still struggle with. I often examine my heart using the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins were first compiled by Pope Gregory around the year 600. You can see them beside me here. They are the sins of lust, greed, gluttony, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. And frequently, a number of times a week, I go through these lists and I confess my lust and I bring that before the Lord. I talk about my tendency for gluttony and I confess gluttony before the Lord. And all of this is purposeful because I want to wrestle with my sin and what my sin actually did or what my sin does. So first of all, my sin initiated and declared my intention. I'm going to live independently. I'm going to run my own life. Thank you very much, God. You run your life. I'm going to run my life. My sin pushed God out of my life, and I became king and Lord of my own life, living and doing whatever I chose to do. So sin put me at odds with the God of the universe, the God who owns the universe, the God who sustains the universe, and the God who, despite my rebellion, granted me huge amounts of grace. Christ's sacrifice. As we learned last time, God's love for the rebellious Peter Cusick sent Jesus Christ to a cross to suffer a horrible death in my place. This is called the vicarious sufferings of Jesus. Jesus died in my place. Instead of me dying for my sin, Jesus died for my sin. But key to this story is this, and this is what I want to wrestle with today. My sin put Jesus on the cross. Your sin put Jesus on the cross. So this is what the Bible teaches me. If I wasn't a sinner, Christ would not have had to have died. God placed all of my sin on Jesus. So Jesus' suffering was the price paid for my sin. So follow this and this is hard, but I want you to grab this. I whipped Jesus. You whipped Jesus. I crammed that crown of thorns down on his head. I spit at Jesus. I punched Jesus. I drove the nails into the hands and feet of Jesus. I mocked Jesus. It was me that did that. It was you that did that. I did it because I am a sinner by choice. It was me. I rebelled against Jesus. I was independent. I told God to mind his own business. I'm going to look after mine. And the end result of that was this. I put Jesus on the cross. So, I am a sinner. Now I wrestle with my sin. My sin caused enmity between God and me. Sin caused Christ's sufferings. I now see the sufferings of Christ after I've spent some time with this. And I worked through all the spiritual exercises about almost a year ago. And I spent a lot of time deeply moved and weeping and overwhelmed, which brings me to the point of this lesson. I need to hate my sin. I don't need to hate your sin. I don't need to hate the sins of my neighbor. I don't need to hate the sins of the country. It was my sin, the sins of Peter Cusick, that put Jesus on the cross. I need to meditate upon that. I need to think about that. I need to list my sins. I need to get the magnitude of my sins. I want to feel my sin, and I need to realize my sin choices put Jesus on the cross. More specifically, the punishment that was due me for my sin, my rebellion, my willful sin, put Jesus Christ on the cross. And when I begin to think of that, when I begin to meditate on that, I begin to hate my sin. So this is what I'm aiming at. I need to feel an interior hatred of my sin. Wow. I need to consciously and intentionally put away worldly, evil, vain things. Those are the things that caused Jesus to suffer. I caused Jesus suffering because of all of those things. And so I want to run away from them. J.C. Rye said it this way: hate sin instead of loving it, cleaving to it, excusing it, or playing with it. We need to hate it with a deadly hatred. Beloved, I want to hate my sin. I want to hate it with a passion. I want to be disgusted at my sin. And I need to run from my sin, which is what I'm going to talk about next time in our final lesson on sin, running from sin.